Hey everybody, welcome back to Plugged In Radio episode number 2. We're only on number 2 here. We're going to move straight along every week. I hope every week. We're going to be recording an episode with maybe one of your favorite plugin authors or companies and bringing them onto the show to talk about their plugin, show us how it works, give us a little sort of scenario of what best situation to use their plugin or software in, and just have a good time about it. Hopefully you learn a little bit on how to use these plugins. You learn a little bit about the author, and we all sort of gain from that knowledge. So it's great stuff. PluggedInRadio.com. You can go there, subscribe. Because I'm recording all this stuff before launch, this is sort of like pre-launch recording. I don't know what the website's going to be yet, but hopefully by the time you are listening to this, you can head over to PluggedInRadio.com. There'll be a place to subscribe, I'm sure. But more importantly, give us a 5-star review in iTunes if you like it. You don't have to. You're not obligated to. But I would certainly love a 5-star review for Plugged In Radio. Of course, this is part of the overall global Matt Report network, right? This massive Matt Report network that I have, this huge media broadcasting company is part of that. So if you're interested in sort of the entrepreneurial talk of WordPress and what people are doing within their businesses of WordPress, be it running a business using WordPress or actually building a business selling WordPress products and services. You can check out more about that at mattreport.com. But today, I'm super excited to have somebody that I've always wanted to have on on at least the Matt Report, but now it's great to have him available for Plugged In Radio. That's Matt Gibbs of FacetWP. Is it Facet? Faucet? How do you say it?
It's Facet.
Okay, it's Facet. I always wonder if I'm saying that correctly. But Matt, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great being here.
So you've got this great plugin. It solves quite an interesting need. I think that just reading the headline here on the homepage of your site is advanced filtering for WordPress, faceted search for e-commerce, resource libraries, search pages, and more. But why don't you give us sort of your take on it? If you have a different view, if this was just your marketing guy who put this together, if you have a different view, and introduce yourself to the audience, who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am Matt Gibbs. I've been in WordPress for since 2008 around. Been involved in a lot of different plugins, including pods, custom field suite, and now FacetWP, which is my first kind of premium plugin endeavor. So basically what the plugin does, it's, as it says on the tin, it's advanced filtering. It's hard to explain kind of what that means exactly, so I'll give you a quick run through. So if you think of Amazon and you're looking for a pair of, I don't know, shoes, Amazon does this really well. Once you're on the shoes section, you'll see a whole bunch of filters on the side, letting you filter by shoe size, the brand, the color, all these other attributes. And once you click on these filters, it narrows down the results to show just what you or your customers want to see. And that's basically what FacetWP does, but for WordPress.
Nice. We've used it in a handful of projects over at Slocum, and it's an amazing plugin. I would imagine, though, it's not for the everyday user, everyday WordPress user. Is that the case, or do you find something different in your customer data?
No, I think that's right. I think the target audience we're trying to reach are site owners that have an e-commerce site, or developers who are building client sites that want to include like a resource library or other listings of a bunch of content that they want to somehow filter. So developers, site owners that are somewhat technically savvy, and those kind of users.
Do you find a particular challenge when somebody does purchase it who maybe not doesn't know a lick of PHP or HTML, and they're sort of trying to set it up or even trying to just understand it? Do you find a particular challenge with that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's still users that buy the plugin that aren't at all familiar with PHP or coding in general, and they're kind of lost. And so we do our best to help them out. But that's another topic too. That's kind of more of a pricing conversation too, if you want to talk about that later.
Sure.
So we actually adjusted our pricing several times to kind of better target the users we want to find. So that could be good. That could be interesting.
Sure. Let's just hop right into it right now. What is the price point for FacetWP?
Sure. So it's $79 for a 3-site license. We give it 3 sites instead of 1, just to give a little more flexibility. That doesn't include, development sites, staging sites, or local. So it's 3 live sites, and that's our lowest tier. We also have an unlimited tier, which is $199. And so that's more for, organizations and agencies that just want to have more freedom in terms of where they want to install the plugin.
Sure. Do you, I feel like, and again, this is probably more of the business side of the topics, but I feel like a lot of great WordPress tools are priced right around the $200 mark, right? I think most of us are sort of settling at that $200 price, but perhaps maybe we should go up. I just one of those things where I think that a lot of our tools provide so much value, but I wonder if the market's ready for sort of a higher price. Do you have any experience sort of maybe playing with pricing at all? Maybe toying with maybe a $249, $399 price point?
I've thought about it quite a bit. It's funny because right when we launched this plugin, so we launched late 2013. And so it started off as kind of like a hobby project. I just wanted to kind of see if there was any interest in this kind of plugin. And then it did okay. And then, it started slowly snowballing. It wasn't any like huge hit by any means, but it was a slow increase in sales every month. So, at first the pricing was, I think it was $29 for an unlimited license. And what I ended up seeing is, we'd get a lot of, mom and pop customers that didn't know coding. And, I ended up spending a ton of support time helping them through it.
Sure.
And, the more I did that, the more I was like, okay, well, I'm working in the red. I'm at a loss here because, I'm spending so much time providing support. Is this really the customer base I really want to target? So I guess 6 months or so later, I started increasing the price again. I increased it. I think the second time was to $39, and it helped, but it's still kind of in that impulse buy category. Do you know what I mean? Where
Yep.
they're like, all right, $39, I can, it's 5 cups of coffee, that kind of thing. It helped, but I ended up deciding to increase it again, and I think I increased it one more time to $49, and finally, just late last year, I increased it to $79, and I think that's a nice. I found it's a nice middle ground where it's not inaccessible by any means to users who just want to try it out, but the pricing does cater more towards serious buyers who understand what this plugin does, and they understand the effort that went into how building this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. You never walk in. So you walk into Apple and you buy an Apple product and you leave and you're like, man, that experience was great. Everybody was nice. It was so helpful. The products were great. Everything was positioned nicely. It was clean. Mm-hmm. You never leave saying that about Walmart, right? When you go into Walmart, you're just like, I'm in here to buy, 24 rolls of paper towels at the cheapest price point that I possibly can. Let me get in, let me get out. Nobody's friendly, right? The place isn't clean. You just want to leave. And I think folks need to really start to, and I actually see it slowly starting to make that turn, selling product myself. I really see that slow turn of folks finally saying, you know what? 2-3 years ago, because time has passed now, there's plenty of sort of gap in between, that, maybe they bought, an unlimited $30 theme that had every option in it. And they realized that, hey, that person's no longer around anymore. That piece of software never really met my expectations. And now they're ready to sort of invest in something a little bit more, right?
Exactly.
Most of these folks who are purchasing FacetWP or using FacetWP, fair to say that they're consultants and sort of reselling services and custom websites. Is that a fair statement?
I think so. There's a lot of consultants. There's a lot of in-house developers for larger organizations that are using it. But yeah, they're definitely consultants, are the majority of our customer base.
Yeah. You have a great document section. I'm going to pull that up on my screen so folks can see it. You have a great, highly detailed document section. So, golf clap, applause to you, my friend. Good job.
Thank you.
It's not always the easiest sort of thing to do. Just looking at some of the topics here, you can definitely see that they're a little bit more developer focused, right? Again, the mom and pops, as you mentioned, aren't really going to come in here and start customizing stuff to a high degree. And of course, my neighbor just kicked on his weed whacker again, so I do apologize if that comes up in the background. So let's talk about that. What's it like to sort of build these documents? How much time do you put into that? I really feel like it's a lost art in a lot of this stuff and a great marketing and sales tool. Do you see like doing increased demos or highly detailed demos or documents to be beneficial to your product?
Definitely. I think it is. You're right. It is a huge investment time-wise, but I think it does pay off. So when I first launched this, I ended up having a support forum, kind of like EDD did and a lot of other plugins. And it worked well because, users could post topics, other users can see the existing answers, and theoretically they could help each other. What it ended up being is, users wouldn't search beforehand, and we'd end up having 10 of the same questions. After 6 months or 8 months or however long, there would be answers that applied at the time but weren't necessarily the best answer currently. So there was, I forget what you call it, information rot or something. But with forums, it didn't work so well. So what I ended up doing is I decided, okay, anytime I release a new version, the first thing I'm going to do is update the documentation so it reflects the changes we've made, just to make sure it's up to date. And also, whenever so by the way, we switched to using Help Scout for our support, and that's been great, by the way. But what we're doing now is whenever we see similar questions being asked in Help Scout, recurring questions that we've already answered and we can reference previous replies. What we do is we ended up adding those as a tutorial section. So if a user asks, how do I make the pager a different style, or how do I make it load differently, or something like that, we've actually had most of our tutorials in our section are from users who have asked that same question. So I think it does help in that respect. And it's also easier to update those tutorials, if changes are needed in the future.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely something that I think is a huge boon to any plugin business. It's something that with such limited time, I know it's something that we want to invest more into. It's just sort of splitting that time. It's
something everyone hates to do, but it's really better you're off.
Right. It's like exercise or brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Or eating healthy. All those things that you have to do, but you don't do it. Let's take a look at the add-ons that you have. Talk about that. What's your most popular add-on? Do you have any future add-ons that you'd like to see developed? Go ahead and dissect the add-on model you have.
Sure. So we have a fair amount of add-ons so far. Our most popular one is probably SearchWP. Mm-hmm. That's created by a guy named Jonathan Christopher. Great guy, by the way. We actually launched both our plugins at around the same time. I think his was a few months before. But they integrate really nicely together. Mm-hmm. If you're not familiar with SearchWP, it improves WordPress's search by letting you add stuff to it and change priorities. So for example, you can, if you have custom fields that you want to be searchable, you can do that. I think it also searches PDFs now, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's actually going to start searching other files too, because I was just chatting with him the other day.
Sweet. So yeah, that's I think our most popular plug or add-on. Nice. We just released a few new ones. We have an add-on that integrates with WooCommerce bookings. So if you have a list of bookable products, you can filter by available dates. So that's pretty cool. And the newest one is called Conditional Logic. And this one's a little harder to explain, but you can basically toggle facets or templates or whatever you need based on certain events. So let's say you've got a facet, and depending on its value, you can hide or show other facets. So that's, yeah, I might demo that here in a little bit.
Nice. I do have that. I do have that page up, and I'm just browsing through and letting people see that. This is all awesome stuff. I think that if you are a developer, or you have your consulting business, there's this thing, and I really quite haven't wrapped my head around it yet, and sort of on how I want to explain it to folks. I do want to write about it someday, but there's like these certain levels that WordPress consultants go through, and it's like in the beginning they see it as a great opportunity to build a website for $500 and make a little bit of money on the side, but then they really want to sort of up their game and either really turn it into a business, right, and not just sort of this freelancery, I make a couple bucks on the side kind of thing, but I really want to give a go at this and turn this into a business. But it's very important that they invest in the right tools and in the right education, and a plugin like this can really position them to build better sites or more involved, more in-depth projects. They can take on bigger projects for bigger customers, because most of the time these types of customers require this kind of conditional logic, this faceted search, things that go beyond sort of the cookie cutter marketing site. And I would say that if you are a consultant looking to find more customers, find better customers, looking at the functions that, I don't have a better word for it right now, but these higher end plugins like a FacetWP or a niche plugin like FacetWP allows you to do that, right? It's not just about how many zeros did you add to the end of the invoice that you sent your customer, right? Of course, I love that sort of selling and the whole sort of artistry behind that. But at some point, like you are probably delivering a much more advanced product, right, or project at the end of the day, and a plugin like this can certainly help you get there, right?
Exactly. A plugin like this or SearchWP or Conductor can definitely add that +1 to your
Absolutely.
To your project.
Listen, we're not here to sell, but happy to throw some plugs around. So now you want to demo this, right? We're going to do this sort of walkthrough, right? Let me get my screen out of the way here. We're going to do this walkthrough of your screen, and you're going to just sort of take us through the sort of famous 5-minute install, this sort of this setup of FacetWP.
Yeah, sure. We can do this for a few minutes.
Awesome.
We'll do it live.
Do it live.
So can you see the screen now?
Everything's up.
Cool. So on our site, we've got a bunch of demos, 4 actually, and one of them is cars, and that's close to Matt's heart.
Yes,
so
sir.
I think we're going to start off by, we're going to just try to recreate some of this in 5 minutes.
Sure.
So right now, as you can see here, we've got a list of cars, and it lets you filter by the make or the vehicle type or the price down below. So let's try to build this from scratch. Okay, so here is our new demo site, and we're going to go ahead and install a few plugins. We're going to install, you're probably familiar with Custom Post Type UI. We're going to install this one. We're going to install FacetWP, and let's install the conditional logic one just for fun later. And then, yeah, why not this one too? Okay, so we're going to create a new page, and we're going to show a handful of cars, and then we're going to be able to filter by whatever we want to choose, whether it's the make or the model or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a new post type. And for the slug, we're going to just call it car. Okay. And how do you scroll down in this screencast?
You might have to go on the side of the window in GoToMeeting. You should also be able to increase that GoToMeeting screen to take up your full screen without affecting anything else.
100%. Okay, let's just try this for now. All right, so we've got the post type. And if we refresh, we can see we now have cars. So now let's go into, actually let me resize this so I can see it.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with custom post types, which probably a lot of you are, but if you're not, sort of like a page or a post, sort of extends the content capacity of WordPress, right? So WordPress is very well known for posts and pages, but we use custom post types for, much like you see in this demonstration, if you want to have a post that contains a lot of information for just cars, like in this example, or products. A lot of this stuff that you see with, especially like e-commerce plugins and whatnot, are really custom post types with a whole bunch of custom fields on them, just containing and storing that data in the WordPress database.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got a post type called cars, and we've added a taxonomy as well to it using the CPT UI plugin. And now we're just going to add a couple more fields to it. These are custom fields now, and we're using a plugin called Custom Field Suite. This is just like advanced custom fields, but it's a little simpler. So I'm going to call it car fields. We're going to attach it to car post type, and we're going to create a field called model. And that's fine. And let's also add one called price or something. Price. And we'll just keep them as text fields. Okay. So now when you're looking at cars and you want to add a new one, give me a car, Matt.
Volkswagen Passat.
I don't know how to spell Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Oops. Passat. Let's just pretend that's the correct spelling for it. All right, so for the make, oops, I can't type. We're going to add VW, so we're going to have a taxonomy term called VW. For the model Passat, and for the price, let's do $28,500. Hopefully that's pretty close. Okay, so we're going to add another new one. Let's call it Honda Civic. Okay, Civic and 19.5. Okay, and then we're going to have one more just for fun. Give me one more, Matt.
Let's go Cadillac XTS.
Ooh, good choice. Oops. XTS.
That's like $60,000.
Oh, good gracious. Let's pretend it's also 19,000.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
Let's say it's heavily used. It's got
Yeah.
250,000 miles on it.
Okay, so we've got 3 cars, and now we are going to show these cars on our site, and we're going to filter or add some filters to it so users can narrow down the results. Okay, so if we look at the home page now, we can see that there's 3 pages: shop, sample page. Let's just use this sample page to display our stuff. So right now, we're just going to create the shortcodes for it, and we'll actually generate the facets here in a second. But let's say we've got a facet named make, model, cars. Okay. And so nothing will appear right now until we actually set up FacetWP. So once you go in here, we're going to add a new facet called make. And for the data source, we're going to find that make taxonomy we just created. And that's good for now. We're going to add one called model.
So just as you build that stuff out, we've built the custom post types called cars. We've added 3 examples: the Honda, the VW, and the Cadillac. And we created a couple custom fields attached to that as the manufacturer, make, and the price. And now we're going in and setting up FacetWP to sort of pull that, or allow it to pull that data in and then eventually display it onto this page.
So I can't find the price one right now, but that's fine. Let's just save this for now. Reindex. So this process is basically for every post on your site, regardless of the post type, whether it's a post or a page or a car, it's going through every post, and then for every facet, it's indexing the data for it in an efficient way. So it's a lot faster than, for example, if you were to use the WordPress's kind of native retrieval functions.
Sure.
And then we're going to add that template. We're going to call it cars. For the query arguments, this is telling FacetWP which items you want to retrieve from the database, which posts. And for this, you can either, if you're a developer, you can enter stuff directly in here, or you could use the query builder. And so all it says here is we're going to find cars. We're going to sort in date. Well, let's sort by title, actually. We're going to sort by title in ascending order, and that's it. And so right here is the actual content that's going to be sent back. So post type is car, post status is publish. So if you're curious as to how WP Query works, this is a good way to kind of test it out. And then finally, display code. We're just going to just grab some sample content just so we can display something. This says for every post, just display the title and link to it. Okay. And so on our demo, as you can see here, we've got a list of all 3 cars, and then right above it are the filters for it. So if we want to show only the Volkswagen, we click VW, and there we go. And
Nice.
so as you can see also, the filters react to each other. So if you click on Volkswagen for the make facet, and only Volkswagen-related items will show up in the model facet as well. So as you can see, if I click on Cadillac, it'll only show XTS. And so that's another advantage with FacetWP. Like it's smart enough to know the content in question and only apply filtering for that. So users aren't shown options that if they click on it, they'll be taken to, sorry, no results.
Sure. Right. The, I mean, fairly straightforward. Definitely something that, that is going to be more, but as we already covered this, definitely something where there's a consultant behind this, sort of setting this stuff up and building out these sites. But again, most of these folks are the ones that are using it, right? They're the ones that are your primary customer, and they're building these sort of more, what I'll call, more intense solutions, right? Because probably 90% of the use case, if not more, for WordPress still is just a basic marketing brochureware site. But certainly powerful. This plugin is. What's the, we don't obviously have the time to get into it now, but what somebody says, hey, this is great. They're watching this right now and they go, this is exactly what I've been looking for this client project that I'm working on. What happens when they want to sort of style this, move things around, have the results on the right-hand side, maybe put this facet interface on, in a sidebar? How does that stuff all play out?
Sure. So all of these are shortcode based. So a developer could display the shortcodes into widget. They could put them in widgets in their sidebar. If they're familiar with template files, there's actually a PHP function they could use instead of using a shortcode. But again, it does require a little bit of developer expertise.
Sure.
We are, as we progress with the plugin, we are figuring out ways to make it easier for non-developers to use. One example is, so back a minute or two ago, we were looking at the display code field, which is basically just an HTML input field. We're hoping to eventually make that more of a UI, where a user can choose like how they want the layout to appear, whether it's a grid-based layout. So it's kind of a grid builder kind of thing. But yeah, for right now, it's you need to be at least somewhat savvy with programming to use this. For better, for worse.
Sure, yeah, but that's it's like we talked about earlier. It's probably better for you in terms of sort of knowing who your customers are, right? Understanding what type of capabilities they have, and what type of sort of maybe even marketing that you might produce to attract this type of user.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about sort of maybe the marketing side of things, the business side of things, really quick. What's next? Any other sort of add-ons coming or sort of key features you'd like to see improved upon?
Sure. So we just actually brought on a part-time kind of contractor to help with some of this stuff, which is great. Um, Again, we are trying to focus more on how to make this easier to use for non-developers. One thing I didn't show in the demo that's possible is if you have an existing listing page or archive, as it's called in WordPress, um, you can basically get FacetWP to work with it with just one CSS class. It's in our documentation, but it's pretty cool, and I think it's made it easier to use for a lot of users. Um, Forward-facing stuff for FastWP, there are a few add-ons. Some I want to talk about. Some are kind of still under the wraps, like that UI builder. That's something we definitely want to focus more on. Whether or not we're building it in-house or whether we're just integrating with, a third-party builder tool. That's definitely something we're focusing on, and just integrating with more things. We've got pretty good WooCommerce integration so far, so just improving upon that, adding other integrations that we feel are necessary. Like, it's hard because for every integration, it adds a whole nother layer of complexity.
Sure.
Not only do we have to focus on our plugin, but we have to make sure that the other plugins work over time as well.
Yeah.
And it can get challenging if there's too many things going on.
Yeah, there are probably better words for that stuff we can't say. Stuff we can't say on the air. I certainly know that.
Oh, yeah.
Any real competitors for this? I mean, is anybody else really solving this particular problem?
There are competitors. There's a few on Theme Forest that are priced very competitively.
Sure.
But
what do you have to say to your competitors?
What do I have to say? I think our plugin is probably a lot more efficient.
Sure.
Coding wise, we focus a lot on making sure that every query is only running if it's absolutely necessary. We spend a lot of efficiency time, and there are other options in terms of hosted services. You're probably familiar with Elasticsearch or Elasticpress. That's something that might happen in the future in terms of, all this is based on Elasticsearch, which it's a really quick database engine. It also has faceted search capabilities, but it's super difficult to implement. So unless you're a huge organization or unless you use WordPress VIP, it's not very accessible for you.
Sure.
And so we're trying to figure out ways to not only make FastWP run faster on WordPress, but also the possibility of supporting other platforms or other search engines. So a lot of stuff on the roadmap.
Sounds like it should be worth more than $200. Hey, this has been some amazing stuff, Matt. Where can people only get it from the site? Is there sort of a freemium way to do this? Maybe like WordPress.org, or are you in other marketplaces, anything like that?
No, it's only available on this site. We decided to keep it off of .org just because of support and
Sure.
There's other issues. But yeah, it's currently only available here. So yeah.
It's great stuff. Matt, I can't thank you enough for the time today and demoing FacetWP. And to our listeners, I hope you really enjoyed that. Again, if you're listening to the audio version only, it's probably much more beneficial to also watch the video so you can actually see these things sort of getting done. But I do hope you enjoy some of the bits of advice and sort of vision that Matt shared with us today for FacetWP. Matt, where can folks find you on the web to say thanks?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at mgibbs189 and obviously fastwp.com. And yeah.
Bye.
Yes. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me or send me an email or something, and I'll do my best to respond.
Sounds great. Everybody else, PluggedInRadio.com. You can head on over there to subscribe. Again, we'd love a 5-star review in iTunes, especially as we're just getting started. This is only episode number 2. I'm sure we'll be making things even better, and we hope to have Matt back when he launches the next add-on, the next product, whatever it might be. He's a good guy, and he puts out some great software. Check him out, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Matt.